Today, we are going to talk about if you should raise your prices in a recession. So this recording is happening in January. And, the consensus right now is you hear from all these economists, I think 80% of them or so are saying like a recession's coming. And then you have 20% are like recession's not coming. I think it's overblown. And I'm still in the camp that I think a recession is going to happen, but neither Neil and I are economists. That's just like a guess, right? But I could be totally wrong because like if everyone is saying, like most of the people are saying it's a recession, like maybe it's not a recession. So first, before we start,
forget
Neil,
if it's a recession or not. Let's just assume it's a bad market because everyone can agree upon that.
Okay, good. So, but let me just ask you before we start, Neil, do you think it's going to be a recession or not in 2023?
Yes, if you actually look at digital ad spend, there was an article on Media Post, first time that they ever saw a decline in digital ad spend. I forgot what month it was for, but they're starting to see people spend less on digital overall too, which is kind of crazy. Advertising, sure, people typically cut back on traditional and then they shift dollars to performance or digital where it's easier to track.
Dude.
But it's a leading indicator.
You know what's crazy, Neil? That you making that point, because the last real recession that we had was the GFC, right? The Great Financial Crisis. And that was in 2008. And so Google was really just getting going as a publicly traded company. There was no Facebook yet. A lot of these other platforms weren't available, right? And so digital ad spend kept going because we kept pumping more money and more liquidity into the system, right? But now this is the first time. This is actually the first time in history. If those of you that follow macroeconomics, it's the first time in history that the Fed has been tightening so quickly, meaning that interest rates keep increasing so quickly. So, Neil, go for it first.
Don't increase your prices during this time unless you have to. What I mean by that is if your cost of goods or services have just gone up so much, you don't have a choice to increase your pricing. But if your costs have not gone up by much, try to keep your pricing. If your costs have gone down, I would actually recommend reducing pricing during these times.
And what's interesting, Neil, I talked to a YPO friend, and he had a company. They have about 1,100 employees or so. They're kind of similar to like a Red Ventures, right? Where they buy a lot of these, sites that have great SEO and they just throw up a lot of affiliate deals, right? Kind of like imagine like a NerdWallet, for example, or like creditcard.com, right? You're basically sending this traffic to these companies, right? Because they want these leads at the end of the day. And so what I would say is I would agree with not increasing your prices. Neil and I both have agencies that are not necessarily all like pay for performance, right? It's like, let's say you're running ads, we might take like a fee or something like that, right? But this guy said in 2008, so he's the CEO of this company. In 2008, when the GFC happened and like all the ad agencies were getting their budgets cut because everyone was decreasing their spend, because that's the first thing you cut, right? He was like, dude, we were just crushing it, right? Because like everything was pay for performance and everyone was their risk appetite was more aligned with that at the end of the day, right? Now, when it's like an up market and there's a lot of liquidity in the system, everyone's down to spend. Things need to tighten up. Then people are just like, you know what? For every lead you give me or every customer you give me, I'm going to give you this. And, that's why they grew so quickly. And I think they're doing a couple $100 million a year in revenue.
Well, I'm assuming they got bought up by private equity or they raised a shitload of money.
Correct.
So there you have it. Don't increase your prices if you can control it, and ideally even decrease them.
All right, that's it for today. Come hang out with us in Miami, February 12th to the 14th, levelingup.com/founders to apply. It's 7 to 9 figure founders. It's going to be a great time, great people, great learnings. And yeah, we're going to have a really interesting format as well. So you can go there, levelingup.com/founders to learn more. And